This year's been a pretty big year. The start of my podcast, spoke to a publisher about publishing my poems, did a character pitch for a comic, started voice acting and got accepted for a really cool show, and a bunch of other things. And through it all, it's been really good to tick off things I've wanted to do and to push myself out there for me. But at the same time, I've been open about how it causes flashbacks, causes episodes of complex post-traumatic disorder. Not because I'm doing too much, but because anything that involves stepping out there and following my dreams and doing things I want to do and getting some sort of putting myself out there, exposing my vulnerabilities, it opens me up to a lot of the issues from the past. And so I constantly am having flashbacks, hearing all the things that I was told where I would never make it, that I'd have to, that I was too old, that I was just a know-nothing housewife. And a lot of these comments came from people close to me, supposedly the ones to love and support. So being that I haven't fully recovered from my breakdown, I'm in an exceptionally vulnerable state still. So the more I move forward and do things, tick boxes, try and create the life I've always wanted, the louder the voices from the past shout. And it's not easy, even with therapy and time. It's not easy to just shut those voices out, and so I've dealt with imposter syndrome all year, and it's manifested into me right now not being able to record my lines for the show. I haven't been able to record an episode of the podcast. I went on a hiatus because my mental health was just so bad, and everything you need to do for a podcast, the promotion, the numbers, so that you can attract sponsors, all of that is a double-edged sword, because you are aware of how many people are watching, and it feeds in to the whole imposter syndrome. So when my computer crapped itself and I lost a bunch of work, maybe permanently, I extended my podcast break. And I've said to my editor a few times, I've said to my daughter, I'm going to record today, and I just couldn't. I've been working on a story, and I like the premise of the story. It keeps evolving, but again, I can't finish it because through the entire thing, all I hear is, it's too late, you're too old, step aside for someone else. Nobody wants to hear what you got to say because you're just a know-nothing housewife. And that's also spilled over into other parts of my life. The jewelry I started to make and was selling, the zines, everything. So I didn't take on too much. I had everything balanced out nicely. I was making sure I looked after my health and my family and whatever I needed to do. But eventually, the more people were saying how they enjoyed my work, and the more people were wanting to work with me, the more it ate away at me. And so I will return with the show, and I will follow through on the commitments I've made. But right now, I'm just dealing with this imposter syndrome, feeling like no one wants to hear what I've got to say, that I'm not saying anything original, that I'm better off just getting back into the kitchen. And so it hasn't helped. I haven't been able to see my psych for a while either. But I think rather than fight the imposter syndrome, I might talk about it on my next Friday show. So possibly I will leave the show until a little while longer. We'll see how we feel. I will be back, but I'm just dealing with the feelings of inadequacy that those that told me I was nothing, I'm dealing with the idea that they were right. And I don't want them to be right. I want to prove me wrong, because their words became my words and now I believe what they said. So I don't want to prove them wrong, I want to prove me wrong. So I will write and blog, I will write and podcast about imposter syndrome on the StoryWeaver Podcast and on my author blog. So if you've got stories about imposter syndrome, if you don't know what it is, if you have questions, suggestions, tips, anything, tweet me, send me a PM, email me, the StoryWeaverPodcast@gmail.com, and let's turn this negative into something positive for other people. And I mean, that's part of what the StoryWeaver Podcast is about. It's about storytelling, craft of storytelling, and imposter syndrome is a biggie, not just for writers, but actors, musicians, a lot of creative people, a lot of non-creative people. So yeah, rather than fight this, I'm going to turn it into something. So now I'm going to take that and channel it into my story. So if you've been wondering where the podcast is, wondering about the updates on my other projects, and wondering why I've just been quiet, that's why. It's been hard, and I'm dealing with lots and lots and lots of flashbacks, and it's brought out my compulsive thoughts and interfered with life in general. But I haven't entirely disappeared, and the podcast will be back, and the blog, and everything else. Okay, if you're still listening, thank you.